Alright, hey, what's going on, everybody? Sorry, I did not know that it would, that it would have you guys in here waiting. I was trying to start this video, and my computer got stuck on the updating screen, so I was trying to figure that out. So yeah, sorry you guys have been in here waiting that whole time. But, I've been wanting to make a video for a while. I just got over being sick. I'm pretty sure it's the freaking sickest I've ever been in my life. And then, yeah, had to recover from that before I could make this. But I went back through and started reading the book a little bit. And initially, for those of you guys that seen the original title, you know, it said Secrets in the Book Revisited. And if you guys remember, you know, I came out with a video that's talking about an affair in the book. And you know, I thought for the longest time, you know, that the way that I was reading it was the right way. You know, I'm still not completely sure if I was, you know, if I was wrong about that, just because, you know, the way that I was reading it was like really screaming out to me that's what was going on. So my original video, you know, I was going to go back through and, you know, read the new thing that I had found, but I think I might still do that. I'm going to try to start keeping these videos short. You know, I was looking at my analytics, and most people stick around for 15 minutes. So, you know, part of me wants to start making the videos shorter so people actually watch them. But then the other part of me is like, hey, you know, like for those of you guys that do stick around and do watch it, they're for you anyway. So if people don't want to watch, then that's on them. But I've been going through I've been thinking about some stuff that Fenn has said. Before I get into it, let me, I haven't talked to a lot of you guys in a while, so just want to kind of see who's in the chat. We got Totally Not Mitzi, but she had to run to the store, but good to see you in here. Gigi or Gigi, I feel like, yeah, I've seen you in here before. T Hunter, I think you just subscribed to me, so I appreciate that. Oh, speaking of that, TTOTC, I want to give a big thanks to him or her, whoever they are. They sent me a $25 gift certificate for Amazon, and I plan on using that to buy a webcam. I did get a new computer so I could start making the videos that I want. I'm still trying to figure out OBS, but the computer that I got, supposedly it's a $1,200 computer. I just thought that the Best Buy clerk was like bragging it up, trying to, you know, get their commission or whatever. But no, I looked it up. It's a $1,200 computer. I managed to get it for $350 because it was an open box. But the sad thing about it is, even though it's a $1,200 computer, the freaking camera on it absolutely sucks. So I don't know what's up with laptops having crappy cameras. But I'm going to get a webcam, figure out my OBS, and then I can start making, you know, better videos for you guys, pull stuff up on the screen. You know, kind of like what Illinois Ghost is able to do. He uses a different approach to it, so he wasn't able to tell me how to figure it out. But I'll tell you what, that OBS that's a whole other beast. Either that or I'm just not caught up in the times today. But yeah. Thank you to TTOTC, and I really do appreciate it, and that it'll definitely get put to good use. But anyways, back to what I was saying. So I started going over Fenn quotes. You know, I was thinking about stuff that he said, and stuff that he said over and over and over, and I'm just going to go through a couple of these. So this is at chasingfennstreasure.com, okay? And if you're the owner of this website, thank you for putting out this information, and hopefully you don't mind that I'm putting in my video. Fenn says, here is what I would do. I'm going to read a couple of these, okay? This is how many times he says this. Here's what I would do. Read my book in a normal manner. Then read the poem over and over and over, slowly, thinking. Then read my book again, this time looking for subtle hints that will help solve the clues. The next one. When the treasure is found, it will be found by somebody who read my book, then read the poem over and over and over, and then read my book again, looking at every word and every sentence for a hint that will help him or that will help them with the clues that are in the poem that they've memorized. Another quote. What I recommend is that you read my book normally, then you read the poem over and over and over, and just think about every line. Read it 4 or 5 times. Then go back and reread the book again, slowly, looking for hints in the book that will help you with the clues in the poem. That's from a transcript with Todd Lovato at SantaFe.com during an interview in April 2013. All right, OH Radio interview, Torg and Elliott. This one says, listen for yourselves for accuracy, so maybe whoever was typing up the transcript, maybe there was some mumbled words or something. But the question was, does somebody need to read your book to find the treasure, or do all the clues exist in the poem? Fenn said, they don't need to read my book, but they need to read the poem. The book will help them, but they can't find the treasure, but they can find the treasure if they can decipher the clues that are in the poem. Another one. I have some advice. Read the book, then read the poem over and over, maybe even memorize it. Then go back and read the book again, looking for hints that are in the book that are going to help you with the clues that are in the poem. That's the best advice I can give. You have to find out to learn where the first clue is. They get progressively easier after you discover where the first clue is. But at that point in time, he didn't tell us what the first clue is. So he's saying you have to find out where the first clue is. But we know where the first clue is because Fenn told us what the first clue is. And it's going to be backwards for you guys anyways. But Fenn says, begin at where warm waters halt. And right here, even though we didn't know it at the time that this interview came out, right here is begin at where warm waters halt. So he didn't say you have to know where the first clue is talking about. He says you have to know where the first clue is. So that almost sounds like you have to know which clue or which words or a series of words is the first clue. Not talking about the location, but the words in the line, or the line of words that contains the first clue. Well, if we have to figure out where the first clue is, and Fenn later on tells us which clue is the first clue, then the first clue is right here, begin at where warm waters halt. And what if it's really that simple, right? Like, what if, how do I want to word this? Because it's just theoretical and I'm going to end up going on a rant or whatever. But what if the poem, right, begin at where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down, right? That's where we begin to read. So what if it's not an actual where warm waters halt, an actual canyon down or whatever, right? And we just simplify it and begin at where warm waters halt. Well, warm waters halt right there in the same line that we begin in. So begin at where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down, not far but too far to walk, put in below the home of Brown. So what if we're looking below the line that is below the home of Brown? You know, like what if it's actually like literal, like it's in the poem? Because he says everything that we need to solve it is in the poem. But that's just a little side rant or whatever. Then he says there are 9 clues in the poem, but if you read the book, The Thrill of the Chase, there are a couple of good hints, and there are a couple of aberrations that live out on the edge. He's always talking about the edge. All right, this is the Moby Dickens bookshop interview. Somebody says, in your dictionary, what's an aberration? Fenn says, I don't have a dictionary, but my personal definition is something different. I like that word. When I was a kid, there was a commonly used word, careen, and it described the condition a car could get into when it ran into a ditch and the frame twisted a little, preventing the doors from opening. Modern autos are more sturdy, so I guess that word was retired. I can't find it anywhere now. Alright, right here. Get the thrill of the chase and read it. Then go back and read the poem over and over and over again. Then go back and read the book again, but slowly, looking at every little abstract thing that might catch up in your brain. That might be a hint that will help you with the clues. Any part of some is better part of any. Any part of some is better than no part of any. So even if we can find any part or any hint, even if we can't find all the hints, right? If we can find any hint that we can relate to the poem, it's better than none. So I didn't realize that, like, I know he said it a couple times, about the whole read the poem, or read the book, then read the poem, then go back and read the book again. I didn't know he said it this many times. Okay, right here. It's interesting to know that a great number of people are out there searching. Many are giving serious thought to the clues in my poem, but only a few are in tight focus with a word that is key. The treasure may be discovered sooner than I anticipated. Right here, what surprises me a little is that, I'll read the whole thing. I don't want to broaden the clue. This is when somebody asked if there were other hints and other stuff that he's written. And Fenn says, I don't want to broaden the clues and hints I've written about by pointing them out. What surprises me a little is that nobody, to my uncertain knowledge, has analyzed one important possibility related to the winning solve. Then, alright, right here, let me find, right here. I said in my book that the solution will be difficult but not impossible. If it was easy, anyone could do it. Whoever finds the treasure will mostly earn it with their imagination. Alright, imagination is more important than knowledge, telling us to forget the knowledge that we think that we know, and use our imagination, right? I have done only a few things in my life that were truly planned. Hiding the treasure chest is one of them. And at the end, the one who finds the gold will not feel lucky, but instead will ask himself, what took me so long? And then, it just continues to go on and on and on about reading the book, reading the poem, reading the book. All right. Right here. Well, let me put it in this perspective. So many people have decided they're going to take a picnic lunch out on Sunday and look for the treasure, or something to do over spring break. I'm looking at 100 years down the road, 1,000 years, maybe 10,000 years down the road. It took me 15 years to write the poem. I've changed it so many times, and I've said before that I didn't write the poem. It was written by an architect. Each word is deliberate. So then later on, all right, hold on. There are some subtle hints in the text of the book that will help you with the clues. The poem will take you to the chest, but the book by itself won't. So we need the book. Okay, you don't need it, but it's going to greatly help. So if you haven't gotten the book yet, you need to get the book. Like, I'm not getting a commission by Forrest Fenn to freaking help sell him books or help sell Collected Works Bookstore the books. But bottom line, you need the book. So if we have the book and we look for the hints, even if there's only some, any part of some is better than no part of any, and we apply what we think are hints to the poem, and we'll know that they're hints because they're aberrations or something different, or they're any abstract thing that stands out, right? That's how we're going to find the hints and apply it to the poem. But if we can do that, then we can find the treasure, or we can solve the poem. Okay, let me hit on this real quick. All right, your treasure hunt has inspired people worldwide to discover history, culture, and nature, but many people, even in the U.S., might be deterred because they don't live near the Rockies or can't afford to travel. Should they be deterred? Can a little girl from India who speaks good English but only has your poem and a map of the Rocky Mountains work out where the treasure is? And would she be confident as she solves each clue, or only confident when she has solved them all? Ben says, I wish I had another treasure to hide in the Appalachians. The little girl in India cannot get closer than the first two clues. There are many disabled people who are deeply into maps and geography, and they are having a lot of fun. So can the little girl from India not get closer than the first two clues because all she has is the poem and a map of the Rocky Mountains, but doesn't have the book? Or can she simply not get closer than the first two clues because she's in India? You know, she doesn't have a plane ticket. She's not over here in the U.S. Doesn't say anything about, you know, a computer or any way to relate to the geography, so on and so forth. All right, somebody just said that gold is key, so I'm gonna do something real quick. All right, so I'm gonna bear with me for a minute. Okay. All right, key. A thing that provides a means of gaining access to or understanding something. Synonyms: answer, clue, solution, explanation, pointer, cue, lead, or I think it's lead. Condition, precondition, essential, means, way, route, path, passport, etc. Now, two of those things, all right, answer and secret, this one doesn't, I clicked on more, but there's two things that stand out for key, and it's answer and secret. And Fenn says, I can keep my secret where, right? And then later on in the poem, he says, the answers I already know. So he's using two words that are synonymous with key. All right, and then let's look up. Forrest has said over and over, he has accused people of you know, overrating the complexity of the search and like overcomplicating the clues. He has told people over and over to simplify. Right? Now, if you look up the definition of simplify, it has to make simple or simpler, as to reduce in complexity or extent, to reduce to fundamental parts, to make easier to understand. This one right here, to make less complicated, clearer, or easier. Or another one, in maths, to reduce an equation, fraction, etc. to a simpler form by cancellation of common factors, regrouping of terms in the same variable, etc. Again, to make simple or simpler, make less complex, less complicated, plainer, or easier. All right, so it says to make, right? To make less complicated, right? To put in a way so much that it becomes less complicated. So, but it also says to reduce. So let's think about it from, you know, from like a mathematical perspective, right? Trying to reduce the common factors or like items, right? So, you know, what if we are simply meant to reduce things like warm and cold, up and down? Everything I've pointed out before, everything in the poem is an opposite. So maybe, you know, that is supposed to be done, or it says to make simpler, to rearrange in a way that it becomes more simple. So are we supposed to take this poem and put it in an order that makes it become easier or more clear to understand? Now, the thing that caught me is Um, it's not on this one. It says the other website that I was on the other day, it said sometimes confused with simple. So to simplify is different than simple, right? To simplify is you making it easier for yourself. Simple is like it's already easy. Well, Forrest has never said it's simple. He has told us as the reader to simplify. And to me, that would almost imply, putting it in a way that is easier to understand. Especially when he tells people, the question that said, if I told somebody to meet me in the mountains north of Santa Fe, where warm waters halt, and all they had was a map of the Rocky Mountains, would they be able to find me? And it said, what did it say? I don't want to mix it up, but Fenn pretty much said that you over. Let me look it up real quick, just so I don't confuse it. Just give me 2 seconds, maybe. Unless somebody has it right off the top of their head. Many places where warm waters halt. All right, here we go. I got it. Maybe. Many places. Okay, Forrest answered a question about where warm waters halt in the featured question. Gosh darn it, I thought it was going to have the question too. But Forrest said, there are a few words in the poem that are not useful in finding the treasure, Phil, but it's risky to discount any of them. You oversimplify the clues. So you're making it too easy. There are many places in the Rocky Mountains where warm waters halt, and nearly all of them are north of Santa Fe. Look at the big picture. There are no shortcuts. So, in that line right there, in my opinion, right, if let's say we're reading this at, because Forrest says we have to know about geography, right, and right here, somebody's asking if I told somebody to meet me where warm waters halt, would they be able to find me? To which Forrest replied, there are many places where warm waters halt. Obviously, Forrest knows where warm waters halt is, but Phil, the person that's asking the question, doesn't. So Forrest is telling Phil that you're oversimplifying where warm waters halt is. Almost like he's saying, like, dude, you're taking this too literally, right? Like, my warm waters are not the warm waters that you're thinking. And I know what you're thinking because it's the same as everybody else is thinking, because I intentionally freaking created the poem to make everybody think the same way. My warm waters are not what you think are hot springs or warm springs, or, where a hot spring runs into a cold river. So if there's many places where warm waters halt, that's almost like Fenn telling us, like, there are a million ways there are a bunch of ways to deem, there are a bunch of things that you could consider where warm waters, or what are warm waters. Try to look at the big picture. So he's accusing the person, he has told everybody to simplify. Try to simplify, right? He's told people to read the poem as if you were going to put an X on the map. He's accusing this guy of oversimplifying, and he has also accused people of overcomplicating things. And then he says to look at the big picture. Now, previous to one of the previous things that I read, he says, read each line in the poem and think about it and ponder it, right? And if you look up how to solve poetry, or how to figure out what poetry means, it's going to tell you the same thing, okay? It's going to tell you to look at the title, right? Look at the title. Well, this doesn't have a title, right? We're assuming that it's called The Thrill of the Chase, right? Because that's what the whole freaking thing is called. That's the name that Forrest has applied to this entire treasure hunt. But it says to read the title first and think, just think about what the title means to you. Then it says, and then it'll tell you to read each line slowly and then stop and think about what it makes you feel for that line. And then continue that process all the way through, and then read the poem again. Read the poem in its entirety and see if any deeper meaning or anything significant stands out to you. Some will say the complete opposite. It'll say to read the title first, see what it makes you feel, then read the poem quickly and gather a first impression, then go line by line by line, just like I said earlier, and ponder what each line means, and then go back and read the poem slowly again, which is almost like what Forrest is telling us to do with the book. But Forrest has also said everything that we need to solve the poem is in everything that we need to find the treasure is in the poem. So is the big picture the poem, right? And if that's the case, then what is it? And this is what leads me to believe that, especially since Forrest, said he felt like an architect, he's telling us it's something that happened, something that legitimately began, something that took it in the canyon down, something that's below the home of Brown. So I think that we're supposed to read this poem as the big picture and figure out what exactly is it talking about, right? And when you think of geography, we've got a bunch of stuff to consider. We've got geology, we've got economy, we've got freaking human sciences, we've got, cultures, ethnicities, all of that stuff combined into one term that is geography. Gosh darn it, these notifications are so annoying. So it's almost like that the poem, to just sit there and consider where warm waters halt, I think is what Forrest is telling us is oversimplifying, right? And I'm going to clarify that thought real quick with another thing. Give me a second, because it's on one of these pages. Not that one. Okay. All right. The question. You tell us that we should find where warm waters halt before trying to solve any of the other clues. Imagining that we haven't seen the rest of the poem, and all we have to go on is... Gosh darn it, where'd that go? Alright, hold on. Bear with me. I don't know where that freaking... Okay. You tell us that we should find where warm waters halt before trying to solve any of the other clues, imagining that we haven't seen the rest of the poem, and all we have to go on is begin at where warm waters halt, or all we have to go on is A, begin at where warm waters halt, and B, somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe. Do you think that we can confidently determine the starting place for your treasure? Steve. Why does it sorry, my bad. Why does it keep doing that? Alright, Forrest responds with, oh my goodness. My computer's like doing something weird. I'm not exactly sure why it's doing this. Alright, I'm just not going to touch the mouse. Alright, Forrest responds with, no. If all you have to go on are those two clues, you cannot proceed with confidence. Look at it this way. If you were making a cake and you left out a few ingredients, would you achieve your goal? So in this case, the cake, right, is the big picture, right? We want to make a cake. So that's the end state, right? And in our case, it's the treasure. But in order to make the cake, we have to know what all the ingredients are. And in our case, it's the clues. The clues are the ingredients. All right, fair enough. Now, if half of our instruction box is freaking ripped off, and all we have is, add freaking 1 cup milk, 2 eggs, and then the rest is ripped off, then, we might be able, obviously we can identify those first 2, but we won't be able to get to our end state, which is to find, or to make the cake. Now, is that the case of why people have figured out the first 2 clues and went right past the treasure? Now, the question is, specifically, you tell us that we should find where warm waters halt before trying to solve any of the other clues, imagining that we haven't seen the rest of the poem, and all we have to go on is A, begin at where warm waters halt, and B, somewhere in the mountains north of Santa Fe. This is the main part of the question that Forrest is answering right here. Do you think that we can confidently determine the starting place for your treasure trail? All right. So it's almost like, I'm not going to go there with that one, but yeah, I will. It's like, no, you can't figure it out because you're missing everything else. So you need everything else, right? Going back to my whole cake analogy and all that stuff. We can't make a cake without all the instructions, right? We might know how to get started, but it's ultimately going to lead us to nowhere. So this part, begin at where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down. Let's say that those are the first 2 clues. Now, Forrest has said that he's not sure when he's talking about the 200-foot people, okay? He says he's not sure if those people, if they had known that it was about the treasure. Now, he said that they were, he hinted towards, like, he knew that they were trying to find the treasure, but he's not sure if they knew that that was the correct where warm waters halt. So just like us putting our 2 eggs and our freaking sugar or whatever in the bowl, yeah, like, sure, we can get started, but we can't finish. So maybe those people figured out the first 2 clues only by managing to somehow guess the correct where warm waters halt. Hold on, hon. I'm making a video, okay? All right.
Can I get the hedgehog?
Not right now. You can wait a second. Okay. We have a hedgehog. I don't know why we have a hedgehog. My wife wanted to get a hedgehog. The kids love the hedgehog. But hurry up. Let the dogs out. Shut the door. But I don't know. The thing sleeps all the time and it's pokey, and I just don't think it's a good pet. But I'll let them do that. But so the big picture is obviously all the instructions. The big picture is obviously all the clues. And you cannot figure out, in our case, we cannot figure out the first 2 clues unless we determine the rest of the poem, right? There's a better way that I can put this. What if where warm waters halt and take it in the canyon down is the end state, right? Which would make sense of why people manage to walk right past it. What if it's the rest of the poem that tells us where that end state is at, or in other words, where that warm waters halt is at? Now, Forrest said the first clue is begin at where warm waters halt, but it doesn't necessarily mean that we have to physically begin right there where warm waters halt. Gosh, I hope that makes sense. It makes sense though in my mind, and then I go to say it, and it doesn't make much sense anymore. I'm going to go through and read the chat real quick and see See what we got going on in there. Okay. All right. I appreciate everybody coming in here. While I'm reading through this chat real quick, I would like to let you guys know, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, all right, please go ahead and do so. Looking through my analytics, 65% of my views are not from subscribers. So that means a lot of people are interested in this, in the whole Forrest Fenn treasure thing, but a lot of people aren't subscribing. So, you know, maybe they're not seeing my new videos when they come out. Maybe they just don't care to subscribe, or maybe they're just like me. When I get on my, you know, start watching YouTube and stuff, I come across cool videos. I'm like, oh, you know, that's cool or whatever. Not implying that my videos are cool, but sometimes I just don't think to subscribe. I just roll to the next video, and I just go down the YouTube playlist, right? Never thinking to stop and hit the subscribe button. So if you are watching this video and you do like the content and you think you would like to watch more, then please subscribe, because only 30%, well, only like 25% of my viewers are actual subscribers. But for those 25%, I appreciate it. It's a metaphor for flushing you down the rabbit hole. I don't know. I think it is. I think it is really simple. Maybe you have a foreign virus. I don't think so. It's a brand new computer. I don't think I could have corrupted it that much yet. I'm just kidding. But no. Forrest says to simplify, right? He says simplify. He says look at the big picture. He says all the information is in the poem. So I think that we need to. That's another thing. Forrest has said people get too caught up on the first two clues, but he says the opposite thing as well. You know, people are looking forward, or people are focusing so much on the next few clues or whatever that they, you know, they don't figure it out. They go right past the treasure or whatever. I'm saying like all of it, the entire poem, and the 9 clues. It could be a million clues. It could be whatever. But it all has the same amount of significance in order to figure out. You need the poem to figure out each part of the poem. I know that sounds so stupid. You can't just take that first or that second stanza and focus on that and just start looking for a place. Right? You need the rest of the poem to figure out what that second stanza is telling you, right? You need the rest of the poem, or you need the second stanza and the rest of the poem to figure out what the third stanza is telling you. And only by doing that, and by looking at the big picture and getting back inside of the box, will you be able to figure out what the poem is telling you. And yes, I think you could find the treasure. Now, Forrest also talks about read the poem as if you're trying to marry it to a place on a map, and how you have to make the lines cross in the right spot. Now, how do I think that we're going to find the treasure? I think we're going to find the treasure by making the lines cross. I think we're going to find a clue right here, right? And then, you know, another thing or whatever, and everything is going to intersect at one spot, and that freaking intersection is what will be the X, and right there at the freaking center of the X is where we're gonna go, just like you would a normal treasure map. I wanted to talk for a lot longer, but the shit getting stuck on restart or whatever. But yeah, I don't know. I wanted to go a lot farther, but my daughter just got home from school. Probably going to take him out to a park, so I'm probably going to sign off from here. But in the next video, right, and maybe I'll even make it later on tonight, but I'm going to talk about these first few chapters and And what I think it's telling us, this is how I'm going to word it. We're going to go back and we're going to read the book slowly, looking for anything that stands out, just like Forrest tells us to do, right? And in the process of which, I'm going to explain why I don't think it's an affair anymore, and why I do think that that we need the poem, right? And just to leave you guys off with something to look up, okay? You guys remember Ora May, right? Her name was Ora May, and I knew her a little from the halls. She seemed happy enough with her way of barely getting by, but she was always hiding out, smoking cigarettes with no names on them. Being the school janitor was a big deal, and I suppose that's what she was. She mostly did odd things and cleaned. She was a little critical of our school's organization, and sometimes mentioned things to the kids. That right there that I just read, and I think you guys should look into it. I think that is talking about Ora May Washington. Ora May Washington was an African American female tennis player, which was inducted into Hall of Fames, and that's why Forrest knew her from the halls. She criticized the organization of the National Tennis Association or whatever it is. Even though she was famous, she was a professional tennis player. She was not. She was what's called a domestic, right? And pretty much she worked as a housemaid, a janitor, a cook, so on and so forth. That's what a domestic was. Pretty much like you're working for your place to live, if that makes sense. Just like this, where did it go? Being the school janitor was a big deal, and I suppose that's what she was. He supposes that's what she was because there wasn't a title, except for it just knew that it was a domestic, right? And just like the chapter previous, John Charles Fremont, or John Charles or whatever, that's talking about John Charles Fremont. This, Ora May, I believe it's talking about Ora May Washington. Then there's another one, all right, No Place for Biddies. Let's talk about this for a second. One said to another, talking about me, of course, he'd run away from home, but he's not allowed to cross the street. And they laughed real hard and didn't even care who heard. How humiliating do you think that was for a kid my age? And sure enough, it had to happen at the big church social when everyone was there. All right, he'd run away from home, but he's not allowed to cross the street. There's a book called I Would Run Away from Home, but I'm Not Allowed to Cross the Street. And it has to do with the feminist movement, or the feminist liberation, or whatever, right? And it specifically talks about this movement, and this woman speaking on behalf of the movement at a Baptist social potluck dinner, right? Like, she's the public speaker. There's a huge potluck going on. It's at the church. Everyone is there, and they're talking, right? And so I think between Ora May and the I Would Run Away from Home, but I'm Not Allowed to Cross the Street, in addition to the chapter in the Too Far to Walk book, where he's talking about meeting that feminist woman that he couldn't stand her at first, and then if you guys know what chapter I'm talking about, you know what, I'll just pull it up real quick. Hold on. I'm not going to read it right now, but I'm going to pull it up real quick. All right. Maybe. You know what? I think it might be in Once Upon a While. But anyways, somewhere in either Once Upon a While or Too Far to Walk, Forrest meets a woman that's all about women's liberation, feminism movement, and Forrest seems to really hint towards this stuff in some of his stories. Now, why do I think he's doing it? I really think that these little things that he's hinting towards all have a common ground. And those might be those abstract things or those aberrations that we're supposed to be looking for. Do I think we need to necessarily go down a rabbit hole of reading each and every one of the books? No, but I think if we do enough searching on the people, which, by the way, history, people, events, etc., that is geography, right? If you Wikipedia geography, you're going to notice that the list of stuff is freaking extensive. It is ridiculous. But maybe that's what we have to do. I don't know. Maybe it's as simple as reading the book, which is exactly what we're going to do. But for right now, I'm going to sign off. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please subscribe if you haven't. Hit that like button. Maybe we can start bringing more people in here, getting more people involved, and so on and so forth. But freaking 50 people in the room right now. That's awesome. I'm pretty sure there was like 54 in here. That's the most amount of people that I've ever had on one of my live streams. Maybe it's because it was posted up for forever that I was going to go live. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. If you are one of those 65% that are watching, you haven't subscribed yet, go ahead and subscribe. Hit the like button if you haven't already done so. Email me at FennTreasureThoughts. If you want to chat or whatever, give me your comments below. And if you have any video topic suggestions, comment them below or email them to me, so that way I can try to meet those topic suggestions. Hopefully I can get a webcam, get this OBS stuff start working, so that way I can start covering those other treasure legends. I know I've been talking about it for a while, but first one is going to be the Lost Dutchman Mine and or the Superstition Mountains. And then hopefully I can find a used GoPro somewhere cheap so I can start taking you guys on some of my metal detecting adventures. Yeah, that's all I got for right now. You guys take it easy, have a good night, and maybe I'll see you later on tonight, but if not tomorrow, but the next day, I'll definitely be back on. I got to work for 24 hours tomorrow and won't be able to go live. But, all right, guys, take it easy.